revolution. It's time to change the rules for God to be back in schools. It's time for revolution. It's time to change the way we hear the news today. It's time for revolution. It's time to change what we see in theaters and TV. It's time for revolution. Are we still one nation under God? Are we still one nation under God? It's time for revolution in our nation. It's time for God's kingdom to reign in righteousness. It's time for revolution in our nation. It's time for God's people to rise up and run their race. Who will lead the way? Who will take a stand for this next generation? Who will vote for truth? Who will elect God's leader and restore our nation? Who will hear the call to go to the marketplace and bring God's kingdom? Who will go outside the walls of the church to be more than just a religion? We are still one nation under God. We are still one nation under God. It's time for revolution in our nation. It's time for God's kingdom to reign in righteousness. It's time for revolution in our nation. It's time for God's people to rise up and run their race. It's time to fight for holiness. It's time to fight for righteousness. It's time to say enough of this. It's time to say what love really is. It's time to say that sin is sin, that anger and fear will never win. It's time to raise the standard again. The love of Jesus always wins. It's time to fight for family. It's time for what it used to be. It's time to remember Adam and Eve and God's intentionality. It's time to pray like Jesus prayed. It's time for heaven on earth today. It's time for Christians to obey so God can truly change the day. It's time for revolution in our nation. It's time for God's kingdom to reign in righteousness. It's time for revolution in our nation. It's time for God's people to rise up and run their race. It's time. We're still one nation under God.